Hello and welcome to In the Court of the Wenton Knave. We have reached the final 80s album. Three of a Perfect Pair. What a great cover, what a colour as well. This was my second copy of this. I had the definitive edition first, but I think the remaster helps because this suffers from 80s-ness the most. In a way, it is the most 80s because they're using that technology now. We're into 1983, 1984, you know. So the remaster helped, and there's loads of bonus tracks as well. So it was worth getting the remaster for that one. I mean, the thing with King Crimson is their ability to remain King Crimson and to remain timeless, even in this era of aged technology, which seemed so trendy at the time, and everything now sounds rubbish. Even now, it's contemporary and it's timeless. It's just more timeless than, I don't know, 9125 or whatever. For whatever reason, they kept it crim, and maybe this album is the only time maybe the balance does tip, and it does go into this is a song from the 80s. But even then, it's still ace. But again, this stuff is better live, so it has that same problem that Beat has, but perhaps not so much. Maybe it was their first digital recording, quite early on to recording digital, I think, and that's one of the reasons I think sonically it's a bit weird, and how the remaster helped. And like I said, the original CD sounded worse, but the newer remasters do sound a lot better. It still sounds from the 80s though. I think this is the album where Adrian Belew comes of age. Adrian Belew is now defined his thing, and obviously dominates a huge proportion of the music. I suppose Fripp and Bruford did that with Larks, and Aspic. They came of age at that point. This took a long time to make. It wasn't a natural album. Remember, the band had technically split up as far as Fripp was concerned in the making of Beat, and they just carried on. So the fact they got another album out there is great. There was 2 lots of abandoned sessions in 1983 before they got to actually make an album or finish an album. As with Beat, always overshadowed by Discipline. Like I said, I love the cover. It's the Trilogy of Life thing. It's a bit like Larks, and Aspic, so it's 3 of a perfect pair. So there's a pair there. That's 3 of a perfect pair. It's the man, woman, child thing. That's the idea of it. I think I prefer it as a painting to Larks as well, so that's cool. So yeah, this is the, you know, Bill Bruford talks about in King Crimson. There's lots of long pauses staring at the floor in rehearsals, spending lots of money, and this is what was happening. And they'd come to a standstill, if you like. They were finding it very difficult. But you know, I mean, from Bill Bruford's perspective, you know, it's not as bad as Yes, is it, for wasting money? It does mirror Red, obviously, because you've got a trilogy from 72, 74, or 73, 74 actually, and you've got a trilogy in the 80s, so it does mirror those albums, and in that sense doesn't stand up to Red in a way. Discipline definitely does stand up to Larks, and Aspic because of the 80s. I think that's the problem. What's really interesting though is how they've split the album up. You've got the left side and the right side. So the left side is your songs, mostly, one little instrumental, and the right side is the proggy stuff, which is a good way of doing it, obviously. And I think once again the band will be becoming more and more successful, and there's a danger of going too commercial, and that solves that problem in a way, doesn't it? Because you've got the left side for noob fans, and the right side for people who want to listen to the prog. So that works really well. So they've done it without selling out. If there is a King Crimson sellout album, this is it. But it's not really a sellout album because King Crimson don't really do that. Maybe the next album would have been, and that's why it had to be stopped. Something I really like is the improvisations are back, and I wish they'd done more of it live. There wasn't a huge amount of it done live, except for the intro to the show, really, and Industry, which is a jam, technically. If it is comparable to other albums other than in the 80s, the second side, the right side, does invoke your Stardust and Bible Black, that sort of sparse, harsh, industrial world, which is a great way to go, and does show the way from Discipline. And in a way, maybe that's the route to Vroom and Thrack. And maybe it's that thing with King Crimson that you know, whatever next album they make, whenever they make it, it's going to be that next album. And maybe had they made another album, it would have been Thrack. If they made it in 1986, or, you know. So, but obviously, because of the left side, it means overall the album is more conventional than Discipline, but not conventional in either scale. So you know, it's still excellent, and there's some good songs on there. So the left side starts with 3 of a perfect pair. One of the best moments of the 80s Crim, one of the best moments in Crim history. It's up there with Frame by Frame for me, or maybe even better than Frame by Frame. As a song, it's better. You've got the interlocking guitars, fully formed into a pop song. It's a pop song in 7/8 and 9/8, I think it is. Fantastic pop song lyrics, which are just wonderful. Reflect the cover as well. How many pop songs use the word cyclothymic? But it works so well. And again, it's one of these Asian Blue. Not only he wrote such a fantastic piece of music, but he's singing and he's playing it at the same time. And what? How? I don't get how you can do that. How is that possible? The solo is some effects from Baloo. I prefer it when Fripp and Gunn did a solo in the 90s. We'll talk about the 90s versions later, but certainly the solo, I prefer it that nicer version of it rather than just noisy version. It's such a good title because obviously it reflects the 3 albums. It reflects the album because you've got the left side and the right side, and altogether it makes King Crimson. Personal situations of band members, maybe. And it's a love song. So, that's amazing. He's managed to bring that commercial thing in with King Crimson completely. Brilliant. Fantastic. Track 2, Model Man. This is the next King Crimson album I don't like, for whatever reason. There aren't many King Crimson songs I don't like. There's Happy Family, The Howler, this, and Into the Frying Pan. For whatever reason, I don't like those songs. I can't really explain why. It is light. It is the lightest thing on the album. I don't think they played it live. It's significant because new standard tuning, I think for the first time, they tried to apply it to this song, but then abandoned it and went back to normal tuning. But it was the first time there was an attempt to apply it, I think. And it's also played on a fretless. But new standard tuning, obviously the whole point is you've got a wider range of notes. And, avoiding cliches is a thing. When your normal finger patterns don't apply anymore, you're going to find new things to play rather than, the usual guitar licks. Sleepless, Crimson dance music. In a way, is that the sellout song? I mean, it's contemporary. It was played in discos apparently. That could have continued the commercial rise in the same way Red could have continued the commercial rise in the 70s. I think the sound lets it down. The live version on Absent Lovers, or any live version, blows it out of the water. And that's the sound, the 80s-ness, that wishy-washy sound. It needs to be more, I think it needs to be more in your face. I don't know whether everyone would agree with that, but I think so. And live, it is absolutely on fire. It is fantastic live. And there's also some controversy with that track because there were some different mixes. And I think it was Tony Levin made a, what do you call it, a 12-inch mix, I don't know. But there's a Tony Levin mix to open it out a bit. And I do think I prefer that. But maybe what it was that everyone in the band wanted something different. And the band has broken up, the band is no longer a band and they can't operate together. So just one of them was chosen and that was the one. Maybe it was the wrong one. Track 4 is Man with an Open Heart. This is a Baloo song, an Adrian Baloo song. It's one of those things where it could have been an Adrian Baloo solo record. It does fit on this album though, so it does fit in King Crimson in the way like Two Hands maybe doesn't. It's a great song. And again, you need to listen to a live version really. Otherwise it's going to sound really 80s and that's the production, not the song. Part of that is there's an extra staccato rhythm to the live version, which I think is great. The question is, why do I like that and I don't like Model Man? And there isn't a live version of Model Man that I have anyway. So that could be it. But I don't know, I just like Man with an Open Heart and I don't like Model Man. Track 5, end of the left side, is Nuages, that which passes like the clouds. I think it's a drum machine. There was a bit of that live as well, interestingly. Probably a Adrian Baloo pedal thing, rather than actually being a drum machine. It's probably one of Baloo's looper pedals. It doesn't really get going until the Frippisms come in and, it's very feedback sounding, but not actually feedback, it's that very piercing Fripp tone. But it sort of drifts along, completely unlike the earlier stuff. And in that way, it is a new thing, and I think that style does appear later on in things like Power to Believe 2 and that kind of vibe, which also comes from Larks 1 as well. There's certainly, the Flying Brick Wall could definitely not have done this. There is no way this would have happened in 72, 74. But again, maybe that was a sign of where they could have gone. On the next album they didn't do. Track 6, or the right side, is Industry. Technically it is a composition, and it is a jam composition, like Sheltering Sky, but less variation in a way. The rhythm section follow a pattern, so there's not a lot they can do. They can do a little bit, but there's not a lot they can do. And it's definitely not an improvisation. So it would be easy to say, well, yeah, the improvisation's about because of industry, but it's not an improvisation. But it's definitely industrial, and it's really cool. Great rhythm. I mean, I like what they're doing there. Dig Me is the next track. Adrian Blue wanted to write a song that sounded like it was falling apart, and it's about a car in the scrapyard. And there's obvious parallels, like with Dinosaur. You know, Adrian Blue says Dinosaur is a song about a dinosaur. Parallels with the band, and Dig Me but Don't Bury Me. And the best thing about it is the juxtaposition. There's a lovely bit of Blue song, and there's the noisy bit. It's one of those things where, rather than it actually being autobiographical, I would say they know it is, but that's not actually the idea. It was actually just a song about a car. Track 8 is No Warning. This is an improvisation. There are some improvisations from this band. There's on the bonus tracks for this, actually, you've got Industrial Zone A and Industrial Zone B, which are actual improvisations, not just jams, by this band. So that's fantastic to have, and this is one of those. It's an intro, but in a way that some of that leads to thrack, I think. All they needed was soundscapes. Track 9 is Larks, Tongues in Aspic Part 3. Didn't see that going. I bet that was a surprise at the time. Much better live, obviously. There's reasons for that. But here, the intro is nice and long. The arpeggios I was talking about with the Champagne Urbana sessions. Bruford following it, or trying to follow it, thing, It's a bit longer here. When live, they didn't play very long, and that's really annoying. So there is that. They dropped the idea of the drums trying to follow it, because it was never going to be exactly on. I assume that kind of echoes some of the intense jam stuff on Larks 1. I assume that was what they were getting at. And it gets into a groove, and then not much really happens. There's some frip soloing and stuff. And it fades, and it's like, well, what next? There's no ending, and that's the last 80s album. Oh no! Now, of course, actually on Absent Lovers, and the other live version on Live in Japan as well, it's Adrian Belews' contribution really brings that last section up, and it's just ace. Particularly Absent Lovers. And of course, but it still doesn't have an ending. It cuts into Telehon Jinji, so it never had an ending. So there you go, 3 of a perfect pair. An interesting one, a controversial one. See you next week for Absent Lovers.